I think it is. And today we are going to be talking about one of the most powerful residency programs in the Americas. A lot of the clients that I talk with on a daily basis, this is something that's super interesting for them. We got somebody here from Tampa. I was just in Tampa over Fiestas Patrias. But today we're going to be talking about, and keep putting in the chat where you guys are from. And if you have questions, I'm going to be answering them as we go, okay? Today we are going to be talking about the Panama Qualified Investor Visa. If you guys are looking for a second residency, if you're looking for something plan B that's tax efficient in a very stable country, it's going to be very interesting for you. So I'm going to give a little bit more time to people to kind of filter in. I realized in the first email that we put out, we said 7 p.m. Eastern, and we're actually doing 6 p.m. So I'm going to give a little bit more time for people to get in. North Carolina. Annette is from North Carolina. Annette, are you a Tar Heels fan or are you a Blue Devils fan? We have another North Carolina. Fun. Florida, a few Floridians in here. We did Portland. It's a little early for you in Portland. I forget right now, November. I cannot believe we're already in December. I feel like every year rolls around and December shows up and you're like, oh man, the year flew by. And then every year you say it, you just sound slightly older. So here I am, dating myself. But we just did a family trip up to see my parents up in Tampa, and it was super fun. I haven't traveled with 3 small kids before, so that part wasn't fun. The airplane wasn't fun, but everything else was fun. And we are 6:02. Let's say we'll get started in about 2 more minutes. And make sure as we're going, I mean, you guys can take notes if you want, but we're also gonna record this. This is being recorded, and then we can send it out afterwards. Just make sure, if you're not part of our mailing list, you can go down to the text box below the video, below the live, enter in your details there, and then we'll be sending this out to the list, the mailing list, so make sure you're on that list if you want to be able to watch this again. The link, we have the link in the description. It's right there if you guys want to access it easy. Okay. 603. Okay. We'll get started. From Brazil. Oh, Sao Paulo. Hi, Maria. It's good to meet you. You're the 3rd North Carolinian, but I'm not sure how many of those are Brazilian North Carolinians. So, North Carolinian, is that the... You know what's interesting? Definitely come to Panama. I would love to meet you guys in January. January is a beautiful month to be here also. When I was in Tampa, I went and bought a new iPhone, and in the Apple store, the guy was telling me there that like 8 out of 10 people that they were attending were from Brazil. So I thought that was super interesting. He was telling me that he didn't speak Portuguese, but that he needed to learn to speak Portuguese because he was missing out on so much business. Okay, we'll get going. Almost 6:04. Okay, so the main residency program that we're going to talk about today is called the Qualified Investor Visa. Sometimes it's referred to as the red carpet visa. It's all one and the same, to be honest. This program has been going on. It's not something super recent, but with every government that is elected in, they usually take visa programs like this. They take a lot of laws and somewhat interpret them slightly different. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about how this current government has been interpreting this specific visa program, okay? And then later on, if you guys want to get more into like the Friendly Nations visa, there's the Pensionado visa, there's various visas. The qualified investor is going to be by far the quickest and easiest. It's also the only one that I'm aware of that gives you basically immediate permanent residency. The others get you temporary, and then you can reapply for permanent later on. But if you've been watching a lot of the other residency by investment programs around the world, that have changed or completely stopped. A lot of the ones that were comparable before, like let's say Portugal or Spain, either changed or actually pulled their programs entirely. So Panama is one of the best that still exists, yeah? Okay, so what is the Panama Qualified Investor Visa? It was originally introduced to basically attract foreign investors to stimulate Panama's economy. It offers residency through investment with a fast-track permanent residency in as little as 30 days. By law, it can be done in 30 days, but gathering all of the paperwork and things usually takes slightly longer. So I would say realistically more in the 45 to 60 day window. Not that it can't be done in 30, it just takes a really, really good lawyer and for you to be able to, turn your paperwork around really quickly. So it's considered right now one of the simplest and most efficient investment programs that exist right now. Who is this for? So this would be like the list of ideal candidates. The number one person who I'm dealing with on a daily basis would be someone that's just looking for a plan B. Maybe, you're not planning on leaving the US today, tomorrow. You also could be. There's just less people fit into that box. But a lot more are looking at this as a potential plan B. Yeah, Panama is politically stable. You have a US dollar. It's really connected. For tax purposes, it's really nice. So for a lot of those reasons and more, a plan B or a possible second passport in Panama is pretty attractive. So tax friendly, I mentioned, entrepreneurs, it's also nice to come and maybe open a business here. Remote workers, there's a digital nomad, like if you're a digital nomad, this Panama is stable. Retirees, if you're a retiree and you don't want to have to leave every 6 months before, it was, or if you don't get a visa, some people will border hop. It's not the most convenient thing, but every 6 months you can stay up to 6 months and then you have to leave and you have to be outside of the country for 30 days before you can come back in. So we're really looking at this from a plan B or from a tax perspective. Canadians specifically, I deal a lot with North Americans, so that's people from the US, people from Canada, Europeans, you guys are coming more and more. But the US, you cannot become a non-tax resident in the US unless you completely expatriate, and unless you renounce your citizenship. But Canadians, when you have a second residency and you spend the correct amount of time outside of the country, I think it's over half the year, so over 130 something days, you guys can become non-tax residents of Canada. And that's when being a tax resident of Panama is something that's really attractive. So if you guys are looking for a country with a strong banking, US dollar economy, world-class healthcare, really, really good geography, we're in the center of everything, and a stable legal system, this residency program could be very, very interesting for you. And another fun point is you do not have to live in Panama full-time to get this residency. You don't even have to live here the majority of the time. Once you have your residency, you only have to be here one time every 2 years to keep it. Yeah? So I'm going to say that again because it's so little. You only have to be here one time every 2 years to keep it. So that means flying into Panama, Copa has a stopover program. You can get your passport stamped, check out Panama for a few days, and then continue on to wherever you're going, and that qualifies. We're going to come back to some questions. Keep putting the questions here, and I'm going to get back to them as we go. Okay, investment options. So there's 3 different ways that you can qualify for the Qualified Investor Visa. The first one, and I think the cleanest and easiest, is a real estate investment. This would definitely be the most popular of the 3. So right now, this was supposed to change last October. So October of 2024, this was supposed to actually go up from 300 to 500 minimum investment. This was, people lobbied, they wrote letters. This was actually extended. This government extended the $300,000 minimum for 2 more years. So right now that 300,000 US dollar minimum is extended until October of 2026. Okay? This can be within one property, or it can be multiple properties. I say that because I have people that maybe buy 2 properties at $150,000, $160,000. That also qualifies. It can be pre-construction or delivered. This is a major difference between the qualified investor and the friendly nations. The friendly nations actually has to have a deed to the property, so the friendly nations has to be delivered. But qualified investor can be pre-construction as long as the funds come from abroad. This is really important. So logistically speaking, do not open up a bank account in Panama and send the funds to Panama and then plan on paying for the real estate from your Panama bank account. Why? It will not qualify you. The funds that as a developer, we have to get a certified bank note or a certified bank letter. Yeah, we have to prove that those funds come from outside of Panama. So be sure before you just start sending money, the funds have to come from outside for it to check the box. Okay. This is also a visa. This is a residency that is certified by what's called the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. It kind of bypasses immigration. That's why it's so much faster. And so for it to check the box from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, the funds have to come from outside. Okay. It can be residential or commercial, and you have to hold it for at least 5 years. Okay. This can be done with US dollar. This can be done with BTC. This can be done with basically any kind of cryptocurrency. And it will qualify you for residency. The most common will obviously be US dollar, but it has been done with various forms of crypto as well. Okay. There was something else that I wanted to mention here. I'll think of it. So with that 5 year, you have to hold it for 5 years. What does that mean? You don't have to hold that specific real estate investment for 5 years. You have to hold a real estate investment over the $300,000 mark in Panama for at least 5 years. That means that they will check to make sure that your funds are invested every year. But when you go to sell, so let's say you buy something from me, and my delivery date is in 3 years, and you decide in year 2 that you don't want to actually live there, you want to maybe roll out of it and get into something else that's in pre-construction. So you sell out of that one. You have 6 months to find a new property to invest that $300,000 minimum in. What I feel very comfortable telling to people is this. If this is for, don't try and check too many boxes with the same piece of real estate. If you're doing this for residency, check the box of residency and check the box for investment. For personal use, if you haven't spent a significant amount of time in Panama, I don't know that you actually will know where you want to live, to be honest with you. It took me a few years of renting around to really know where I wanted to full-time buy my home. I feel very comfortable giving you feedback on what makes sense as an investment and one that was going to qualify you for residency. Where you want to live, I don't know. That's a totally personal preference. So what I suggest is check off the first 2, come down, rent, find a place that you want to be, and because you check the box of a good investment, you can flip out of that in the meantime if you want to put those funds towards your primary residence, because it doesn't have to be the same piece of real estate that you hold for those 5 years. You can flip out of it and move it into something else. You have a 6 months window to do so. Okay. Something else that is significant is with the visa application, you have to apply with a promissory purchase agreement from me as a developer. They will review the Annex 2, which is basically the payment, the payment plan. And you can do this one of 2 ways. This is what I wanted to mention. You can pay me, the developer, upfront the full purchase price, which I don't need that. That's a requirement from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Or you can put it into a certified vehicle, which the certified vehicle is a trust, where then you put the $300,000 into a trust, and the trust is what pays me out according to the contract. Okay? There's pros and cons to both. If you're interested in this, get in contact with me. I can go over in very, very much detail the pros and cons of each one. And it really depends on your situation. It really depends on the total purchase price of the apartment that you're looking at. But get in touch and I can go through this with you on like a case-by-case basis, okay? Okay, so the real estate is the case for 90% of investors, okay? You're essentially buying a property in one of Latin America's most stable real estate markets, one that is consistently growing year after year. In exchange, you're getting permanent residency, so not too bad of a gig. The other two that I'm just going to skim over that qualify you for the qualified investor, you could do an investment in the Panamanian stock market with a minimum of $500,000 USD. That also has to be held for 5 years. That can include bonds, Panamanian companies, or kind of a diversification of both. And then the third option would be a fixed term bank deposit of $750,000 USD. This has to be placed within a Panamanian bank and held for 5 years. Interest rates there vary depending on the institution and term. So long story short, I mean, I know I'm biased telling you this, but real estate is really the easiest and most kind of intuitive route for most of you that are watching. It also comes with a hard asset, and the benefit of having, I mean, that long-term asset here in Panama, and also, I mean, your residency for you and your family, okay? Okay, proof and documentation. So you will need a valid passport. You'll need a clean criminal record. You'll have to show bank statements. So your bank statement, it's really a proof of funds. And this has to show that the money was generated in a normal manner, that you're not, that you are not a drug lord from Colombia. That's what Panama wants to know. And that your funds originate from abroad, yeah? You have the promissory purchase agreement, certified checks. So all this is done with a lawyer. You have a good lawyer, you don't really have to worry about your certified checks. You just need a nice power of attorney and they take care of everything, yeah? Due diligence fees and lawyer requirements, which there are, I mean, all law firms, most law firms should have an immigration department. There are some and there are others. There are some that do this on a daily basis and they know by name everyone in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and those are usually the residencies that get pushed through the quickest, to be honest with you. So I'm happy to recommend ones that have done this 1,000 times that are very, very good at it. Okay, how long does the process take? So the famous, once the documents are submitted, 30 days for permanent residency approval. You get a temporary card, I believe for like 15 to 20 days. It's very, very short. And then realistically 45 to 60 days for the whole process, okay? You get the temporary card basically immediately, and then it takes them 30 days to process it. And when that's done, that's when you get your permanent card, which is the same one as what I have. It's called a cedula. So compared to other countries, Costa Rica, Mexico, Portugal, Panama is by far one of the fastest processes you will find. So what rights do you get as a resident? Let's talk about that a little. The ability to live full or part-time in Panama. You get access to healthcare. It's easier to open bank accounts. You can apply for a work permit if you want. There's also the option, and I remember now, so if you're from Canada and you want to become a non-tax resident, you have to spend 180 days outside of the country. But once you're a resident of Panama, you can claim it as your primary residence, which gives you a more favorable bracket. So all of the real estate taxes are in brackets. And once you become a resident of Panama, you can list your first piece of real estate as your primary residence, and it gives you a much better, your taxes are much lower on your primary residence. Okay. Let me keep going here. Common questions. Okay, so let's do a quick roundup of what we just talked about. We did qualified investor visa, permanent residency within as little as 30 days. It just takes getting the paperwork together with a minimum investment requirement of 300,000 USD. That is only applicable until October of 2026. Then that amount goes up to 500,000, okay? You do not have to keep that specific real estate for all 5 years. You have to keep a real estate investment for 5 years. You can sell out of that one and buy something else. You have a 6-month window to do so, okay? Who gets residency from this? So there's a primary applicant, okay, which is the person who is signing the promissory purchase agreement. And then you can have, dependents. Dependents can be spouse, children, I believe it's 25 and younger, that are not married and that you can prove are financially dependent on you. There are many ways to show that someone is financially dependent on you, such as enrolling in a college course. There are ways to show that someone is financially dependent on you that will check that box for them. If they're married, they cannot apply. They would have to have a separate purchase of $300,000. You can also, if you have any kids that would be special needs that are over 25 and you can prove that they're financially dependent on you, they would also be able to come in with you. But you have a primary applicant and then you have dependents, okay? So children, spouse, I believe you can even bring in one set of mother and father-in-law if that's interesting to you at all. If it's not, don't tell me. Common questions. Okay, I'm just gonna go kind of rapid fire through some of the most frequent questions that I get. So do I have to live in Panama full time? Absolutely not. You have to visit at least once. So you have to be here when they submit the original paperwork for the visa. They have to take your picture. Like, you have to be here physically present one time. And to maintain it, so once you have the permanent residency, you only have to visit one time every 2 years, okay? Can my spouse and kids be included? Yes, as I mentioned before, you get a main applicant and various beneficiaries. There's obviously additional fees for each beneficiary. Can I buy pre-construction? Yes, honestly, buying pre-construction is one of the cleanest and easiest ways. Question here, I'm gonna put the two together. Yes, so pre-construction is actually one of the easiest ways to get the residency. Why? Because there's no history that you have to deal with in terms of liens on the property, various previous owners on the property. You can get immediate permanent residency with pre-construction real estate. You do not have to wait until that's delivered. That's a separate visa. That's one that's called the Friendly Nations visa. And that's why I don't like it as much, because the Friendly Nations visa, you do have to wait. The Qualified Investor visa, you do not. You can get immediate permanent residency as soon as that 300,000 or the purchase price of that property is sent to Panama, sent to real estate in Panama. You qualify and you can get immediate permanent. If the building delivers later on, okay. It delivers later on, it delivers later on. That does not affect your visa, your qualified investor visa at all, okay? Okay, someone mentioned here about an LLC. So how this logistically needs to happen. How does it work for husband and wife? Do we need to hold the property in our names, or can it be in a company name? So there's two different ways to do that, or there's one way to do it. Depends on the time. So you sign the promissory purchase agreement in your own personal name, because your own personal name is the one that is applying for the residency. Then during the time of construction, you can consult with the lawyer that is doing your residency. And by the time it's delivered, that's when you have the vehicle ready. That's when you have the LLC, the foundation, the whatever you're going to hold it in long term. You don't do that until later on in the process, because the promissory purchase agreement, which is submitted to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, needs to be in a personal name, because the person is what's submitting, or excuse me, it's what's applying for residency, not the LLC. Does that make sense? So there's the application process, and then there's after the application process. During the application process for your residency, it's in your personal name. After that, all of our contracts, as long as it's to like you, the person that's signing, or an immediate family member, so spouse, kids, whatever, when you go to take delivery, if you want to put that into a different vehicle, there's no transfer fee. There's no transfer fee, okay? So yes to both. You can hold it in an LLC, a foundation, a personal name, whatever you want. It's just logistically when that is done, okay? So crypto 300K to be, so crypto of 300K can be used for purchasing property to get a golden visa, but if not sending from a Canadian bank account, but from a bullion millennium dealer. So as long as the funds, I didn't see the end of that question, it popped up in one way. In the form of wire in USD. I have experienced before BTC to BTC, as long as it's an international, like it's not, the account is not here in Panama, it's an international account. The transfers, the funds come from international, doesn't matter. It's been accepted. I've known cases of BTC to BTC. I've known Ethereum. I've known, depending on your situation, we can talk in more detail, but it does not matter. You just don't go converting that in Canada to USD and then send the USD to Panama and then try and buy it here and then try and send that to a developer here in Panama in USD. Does that make sense? Okay. Are there English first schools? Are there English first schools or international schools? Okay, so there are, I'm going to answer the school question, then I'll come back. You have 3 different school systems here in Panama. You have local Panamanian, which is public. So you have public Panamanian, which I would not advise. If you're an international person, it would not be up to your standards. You would be looking at either a private Panamanian or private international school. Both have really nice options. Realistically speaking, I would say that depends on where your kids want to go to college, where they want to go to university. So if you're from Europe and you expect your kids to go back to school in Europe somewhere, I mean, there are specific schools. We have a German school, there's a French school, there's schools here. Balboa, for example, would be more, they have a lot of AP courses. There's other ones, I think the Met, that would be more IB focused. So depending on kind of what you see your kids or where you see your kids going to university afterwards, I can give you a better recommendation of where. Top schools in Panama, generally speaking, would be ISP, International School of Panama, Metropolitan School of Panama, Balboa is very good, Boston School is very good, a Panamanian school that would be also very good would be AIP, Academia Interamericana Panama. You have Colegio Panama. So depends a little bit on the plans of your children after high school, but there's a lot of really nice schools here in Panama. Okay, can I sell the property after 5 years? Yes, you can. And you do not have to invest it back into real estate in Panama. But if you want to sell it before that 5 years is over, remember you have to keep a minimum of $300,000 invested in real estate in Panama. You have a 6-month window to basically sell and reinvest. Is Panama safe for investment? I mean, yes, it's one of the most stable countries in Latin America. I would say It's funny now, I would say more so than just Latin America. I deal with North Americans and Europeans on a daily basis that feel safer here than their home countries. Okay, what types of real estate qualify? So residential, commercial, and mixed use, and certain tourism developments. So the majority of real estate, long story short. Does Airbnb rental income qualify as Panama income? Yes, but it's only taxable if generated through Panamanian operations. Can you become a citizen? Okay, so this is something that was just really, really recently passed. Yes, after 5 years, you can apply to become a citizen. After 5 years of permanent residency, you can apply to become a citizen. This government actually just incentivized this permanent residency program more. They're giving you a special travel document that comes along with your permanent residency. It is not exactly a passport, but it's very similar to a passport. The actual passport you can apply for 5 years later, but this presidency just announced, this was about a month ago, that you get a special travel document, basically that you can travel in and out of Panama on. It's not exactly a passport, but it's similar to it. And then, okay, recommended investment areas. Depends. I don't always like to say depends, but it depends. The top areas in Panama City will be, for sure, Santa Maria, Costa del Este, Ocean Reef Islands. There's some other ones, I mean, depending on what you're looking for, short-term, long-term, that type of thing, but Avenida Balboa could be interesting depending on the building. Beach areas, so if you look at places like Chame, Chame is growing very fast. You also have, I mean, ones you guys would know, Coronado, Lake Aracol, Rio Hato. Panama has a lot of microclimates. So you have the city, a major metropolitan city, you have the beach areas, and then you have the mountains. So the mountains would be like Boquete, Volcan, El Valle. A lot of these areas have like really proven long-term growth. You just have to look at, Panama's small, so it's easy to somewhat keep a finger on the pulse of what's growing, what's not, where the people are moving to, why. And at the end of the day, Panama is becoming extremely international, extremely international. There's not that many Panamanians. Like, I've read a statistic before. There's only so many Panamanians, I meant to say. I'm married to one. Love you if you're watching, Diego. Don't write any crazy comments, please. But what I mean to say is you have to keep a pulse on both things. So on the local Panamanian trend, but also on the international trend, because typically they're not the same. Okay, they're very, very different. The type of real estate that they're looking for is very different. For example, Panamanians don't look for balconies. They don't like balconies. Diego and I, my husband, had a disagreement of whether we close in our balcony. An international person could not imagine being in Panama with the beautiful weather and not having a balcony. It would blow their mind. So I won that fight. I won that, I wouldn't call it a fight, a discussion. But having your finger on the pulse will really, really allow you to know with a lot of confidence what areas are growing, why, and will they continue to grow or not. Okay. Now, okay, I've jabbered enough. Now that we've covered the requirements, the benefits, and most of like common questions, FAQs around the qualified investor visa, I'm going to open it up to you guys. So drop your questions in the chat. Let's talk about that one. Drop your questions in the chat. Anything about Panama real estate, residency process, investment opportunities, or the lifestyle in the country. Can you bring back up the one about a horror story? I've heard many horror stories about buying pre-construction throughout Latin America. Yes. Either the place never gets finished and other reasons. Could you please address the risks of this in Panama? Absolutely, happy to. So Latin America is still somewhat like the Wild West. it's getting slightly more regulated. I think a lot of the opportunity in places like Panama is because it's not as regulated. So it has more risk, but there's also a bigger upside if you know where to look. I've been here 11 years. I've met people that have lost everything. I've also met a lot of people that have done extremely well. It depends entirely. Pre-construction is a different animal. Pre-construction is you have to know inside and outside the developer that you are getting into bed with on a pre-construction condo or house or whatever it is. Because, I mean, track record is, I don't want to say 90% of it, but track record is 90% of it. Panama is a small country. Ask around, ask for feedback from other people. Write me, I'm happy to give you my input. But track record is huge. And also, what you're signing during pre-construction is a promissory purchase agreement. There should be basically damages clauses that apply for you if you pay late, if you don't pay. There should also be damages clauses for the developer if they deliver late, not up to standard. Like, there should be in your contract, one, you need to have a Panamanian lawyer review the contract. Stop having US lawyers review contracts in a jurisdiction that they don't understand. I'm happy to send you recommendations for lawyers, but have a Panamanian lawyer, a good one, that knows what they're looking at, review the contract, and make sure that there's protections built in for you as the buyer, because there's going to be protections built in for the developer, obviously. Okay. Can you expand on the scenario of purchasing pre-construction? You mentioned about a certified vehicle trust. Can you explain the process? Sure, I'm happy to. Okay, one of the certified, there's two certified, let's call them vehicles, that the Ministry of Commerce and Industry will, one is a certified bank letter, which can be produced by the developer. Okay, so the developer, we receive the funds, we go to the bank, we say, look, we received the funds, and then they will produce a certified bank letter for us to give to you. There's that. Or there is a trust, where the trust, you open it with a lawyer who's helping you review your contract and do your residency, and you move the $300,000 from your US or Canadian or European bank account into the trust in Panama. So once the $300,000 is received to this trust, your lawyer will take the documentation of the trust and the promissory purchase agreement and submit that along with your FBI records, or Canadians, you guys have like the mounted police records. And with all of that documentation, that's a certified vehicle. So as long as they can prove, they line it up. The promissory purchase agreement has a payment plan. The trust will pay me out according to the payment plan in that contract. Okay? Does that make sense? If you have more detailed questions, feel free to write me. My email address is going to be also below this video. You guys can reach out there. Okay. To connect with me, you can go to that link and submit your details, and then I will reach out to you personally, and we can go into any scenarios that you guys are interested in. What areas of PC are best for investment and /ROI rentals? I'd say it depends on the rental that you're comfortable with. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you examples. There's part of Panama City that makes sense for short-term rentals. There's part of Panama City that doesn't make sense for short-term rentals. I've had clients that have really good, former experiences with multinational renters, like they have properties that are rented by multinationals. I've had other ones that really like being rented, like having rentals that go to students. So I would say find somewhere. My two favorite would be Santa Maria, specific areas of Costa del Este, not all of Costa del Este, but Santa Maria, parts of Costa del Este, and We have a specific project that would be a lower price point, so like entry-level price point, 150, you could do 2 of them for the visa, where around that area you have about 8 different universities. Not undergrad, but in Panama you have what's called protected professions. So if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you're an engineer, if you're in maritime, if you're, what are the other ones? There's about 20 protected professions, and all within like an 8-block radius are where those universities are. So what's really interesting is if you're a 30-something-year-old, you did your undergrad, you're going to do your grad, you're getting your doctorate, you're getting your master's, whatever, you have to be in that specific area of Panama for 2 to 4 years. So I would say find somewhere that people need to be, they need to be there. A lot of what dictates Panama is traffic. So if you don't know the traffic flows, there are specific areas in Panama that will never rent or will never sell just because the traffic there is so horrible. They won't, but it will take longer. So I would say, I personally really like the idea of a multinational renter because they usually have good budgets. They're usually traveling a lot, so they're really easy on your stuff. And they really like the idea of being closer to the airport with like first world things. So I really like Santa Maria for an ROI perspective for multinationals. Costa del Este, again, specific parts of Costa del Este, but I would say those 2 areas are really interesting. Okay, on your current projects, what is the timeline and costs? Ooh, Maria, I have 17 active projects at the moment. So I counted the other day, could be, we're finishing things and starting new ones, but more or less around 17. I have things that are delivered and ready to go. I have things that are delivering as far out as 2029, 2030. So it really varies. I would say if you're looking at this, there's various types of investment, right? There's capital appreciation, there's cash flow, and depending on your situation, your tax situation, if you want to start receiving cash flow sooner rather than later, it will really depend where I point you towards. But please reach out with your specific situation. I'm happy to go into detail heavily on each of our different projects and find you the right one. Okay. If you guys have more questions, be sure to keep putting them in there. I'll keep answering them. Otherwise, what is the name of the development near the universities? So the name of the development near the universities, there's 2. It's actually a multi-use building, but you may have heard of Armonia. So Armonia would be the residential side of it. We also have if you're only into short-term rentals, some people are like, it's a chip in their mind, they only want short-term rentals. We have a hotel condo there that's called Ventu. For any of these projects, please feel free to reach out directly to me from this video, and I will send you all the details on it. If not, if you try and go through the website, someone Spanish-speaking might get in touch with you. But my whole entire international side is geared towards just helping international clients. So be sure to inquire from this video, okay? But that would be Armonia. That's the one surrounded by all the universities. And I know how many there are in the area because I walked them one day for a video. I got very sweaty. But you walk around there at noon when everyone's out for lunch, and you see 100, 150, 30-something-year-old going out in their scrubs, because there's a lot of healthcare universities around there, and also 3 of the major hospitals where people might be doing their residencies. Wow, guys, we're 45 minutes in. If you guys don't have any other questions, let me see if I have some more FAQs here. The majority of you guys, would you say that you're looking at this from a plan B perspective? Are any of you guys looking to move here full time? I'm curious. I've been here now 11 years. I love it. I don't have any plans to leave. Buying in Old Town. Is buying in Old Town a good idea for ROI or for living in a beautiful part of Panama City? So Old Town is tricky. Old Town being Casco Viejo. Casco is beautiful. Casco is for Casco Viejo. Casco is, okay, let me rewind a little bit. Tourism, international tourism, Panama is not at the top of its game for. A lot of Latin America is you develop what is needed. It hasn't been needed because Panama has a very healthy internal tourism. Casco Viejo would be a lot more short-term rentals because living full-time in Casco, people do it, but it's not the most comfortable thing. You're looking at buildings that are UNESCO World Heritage Sites, so they're like really thick. Like it's not wired for Wi-Fi, it's not wired for cell phone service. I had a colleague a few years ago that I'd call and she had to like stick her head out the window to take a call in Casco Viejo because the reception, she couldn't get it inside of her building. So Casco, I mean, right now at the point of life that I'm in, is less interesting because it's a commitment to go. There could be a lot of traffic to get in, a lot of traffic to get out. Is it beautiful? Super beautiful. Do you need to visit it at least once when you come? Yes. I think you limit yourself a little bit in terms of market of who will be a reoccurring renter for you there because it is quite uncomfortable to get in and out of. It's beautiful, go and spend a few days there. But there's a lot more convenient places in Panama to be than Casco Viejo. But again, beautiful, lots of great restaurants, but it is a commitment to get in and out of. Okay. Is there anything else you guys would like me to answer while we're here? Otherwise, if I miss anything, if you guys come up with questions afterwards, you feel free, please, to put them in the chat box below. I am happy to continue answering them in the coming days. I'm also we're recording this to send this out hopefully tomorrow, but you'll get it follow up in your email. Just make sure that you're subscribed here so that I can send this to your inbox. Otherwise, we do live streams. As a reminder, we do live streams the last Monday of each month. Okay? So today, I cannot believe it. Like I said, I'm an old person. It's the last Monday in November. So we'll do another one the last Monday of December. If there's specific topics, this topic actually came up from a comment that was made on the last live stream because you guys were so interested in the residency options. So if you guys have ideas for the upcoming live streams, be sure to put them there. I'm happy to go into it. Okay, I just got another question. If I purchased a pre-construction to be delivered in 2027 and the minimum amount to increases to 500 from 300, will I be grandfathered in at 300? Yes, as long as you've paid the purchase price before it goes up in October of 2026. So you do not want to be running in July to pay the remaining balance so that you can apply July, August, September. I'd say July you'd be okay. Do not get into the August, September because everything here takes a little bit longer. I wouldn't be playing with more than 3-month window to make that application. So yes, you're grandfathered in. You would just have to basically get your residency before they take it up in October, if that makes sense. But the purchase price, as long as you get the residency at the 300, you're grandfathered in once they change it to 500. Okay. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything else here. Guys, I think that's it. I've had fun hanging out with you for the last 45 minutes. I appreciate all of you that have tuned in. Please feel free, like I said before, leave questions, comments, things I haven't answered below. Be sure to subscribe because we're going to be doing these. We put out weekly content about 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes more if we're really excited. And we're going to be doing these live streams the first Monday of each new month. So until next time, I appreciate all of you, and I will talk to you guys again soon.